Greetings, Padawan. You might be having a wonderful time living out your Star Wars fantasies in DICE's Battlefront, but much to learn you still have. So here are 10 hot tips to help propel you up that scoreboard and have you claiming victory for your side. Hot tip number 1. Set your camera to third person. Battlefront is a gorgeous game that really captures the essence of being in a Star Wars battle. It might be tempting to further immerse yourself in the world by playing in first person, but you're putting yourself at a real disadvantage by doing so. In third person, your field of vision is much higher, giving you better situational awareness. You'll be able to spot enemies over ridges or around obstacles and corners, and you won't be so easily caught out by some sneaky bastard coming at you from the flanks or jetpacking over your head. You'll also find it much easier to platform around the environments. There's plenty of spots you can Skyrim style hop your way over for a sneaky shortcut, but if you have to look down at your feet to do so, then you'll inevitably find yourself running into trouble more often than not. Third person also makes using the jump pack accurately a whole world easier. There's nothing more immersion shattering than constantly dying to people you didn't see coming, so ditch that first person view immediately and you'll soon be reaping the rewards. Plus, you get to look at your dope character model that, if you're anything like me, you spent all those hard-earned credits on before actually buying yourself some functional equipment. Don't let those ponytail physics go to waste. It's also important to make use of the shoulder switch. Tapping the camera button will flip between looking over your left and right shoulders, allowing you to much more easily see around corners before you poke your character's head out. It can take a little getting used to, but it'll soon become second nature, and the enemies won't see you coming until they're full of hot blaster fire. Hot tip number 2. Think about the objective, not just your kill-death ratio. Just like with any other multiplayer shooter, it's very easy to get caught up in preserving a high kill-death ratio and forget what your actual goal is. While taking out opponents and not dying too often will benefit your team, it's important that you do this in service of capturing the drop pods, stealing the cargo, or perhaps locking in those bombing runs. Unless of course you're playing a kill-based mode like Blast or Heroes vs Villains. Take a moment to work out what your team's goal is right now and how you can best help out. If there's a huge stalemate at one objective, you might be able to slink away into the shadows and nab another point for your team before the enemy realises that they've left it undefended. Conversely, if everyone runs away from a point you need to defend, consider sticking around briefly to make sure none of your foes can pull off any similarly sneaky tricks. In certain cases, it can be worth risking almost certain death to save an objective. In cargo, for example, returning your cargo back to safety takes almost no time, so be quick to nab it if the enemies are nearby and prevent them from having an easy time picking it back up and capturing it. In Drop Zone, a well-timed daring run onto the pod can allow you to capture it before the opponents realise the danger. Consider using a jump pack for an added element of surprise, or a personal shield for a brief but essential moment's protection. Even if they take it back straight away, resetting the timer will allow your team another opportunity to more decisively claim the point before it is secured by the enemy. That doesn't mean you should run in recklessly at any time, but bear it in mind. Similarly, in Drop Zone, the Rebel team should be almost completely focused on damaging the walkers during the bombing phases. The Imperials might rack up a few easy kills, but respawn times are fast, and utilising your special weapons and equipment as often as possible is key to earning victory. Iron torpedoes, iron grenades, the anti-vehicle Atgar turrets, fighters, orbital strikes, smart rockets, if you've got them, now's the ideal time to blow them. All over the enemy walkers, of course. Hot tip number 3. Take the road less travelled. It's incredibly tempting to get caught up in the action and just run in a direct line towards the nearest skirmish or objective, but following the masses or taking shortcuts across open areas will only put you straight into the enemy's line of fire. Instead, look to take slightly longer routes around. Try to stick close to walls and near to cover so that you aren't as easily spotted. Taking a longer route around to the objective can often let you come at things from an angle the enemy doesn't expect, allowing you to catch them off guard and take several of them out quickly from behind. As a bonus, even if some of them do react and try to shut you down, your distraction will allow your teammates to rush in from the front approach and overwhelm the point. That said, if everyone else is taking the side roads, then sometimes cheekily nipping across the centre of the map can be a great strategy. The key is to pay attention to where firefights are happening already and trying to avoid running into them head on. Either come at them from the side or back, or avoid them altogether. If your team is all running out of one door and dying, it might just be worth spending a few more seconds running back around to another door and making your way out of that one instead. Hot tip number 4. Make good use of the bonus pickups. Bonus pickups are littered liberally throughout the maps, and they're often quite potent. It doesn't cost anything to use them, so don't hold on to that thermal imploder for the whole game, looking for the perfect clustered hallway. If you can use it to take out a couple of guys and nab an objective, or even simply swing the numbers in your team's favour, it can easily be worthwhile. That said, if you know an opportunity is coming up, it can be worth holding onto one briefly. Unleashing an orbital strike on an exposed AT-AT can be devastating, as can dropping a squad shield onto the uplink terminal or hurling a choice thermal imploder into a crowded capture point on Supremacy. Remember that if you grab a pickup which isn't that useful right now, you can just swap it out for the next one you come across. As for vehicles, they can be very dangerous in the right hands. That said, remember that you are far from invincible in an AT-ST or TIE interceptor. It's still just as important that you keep a close eye on your surroundings. You should also consider whether a vehicle is helpful in the current situation. Good fighter pilots can cripple an AT-AT in seconds on walk or assault, for example, but having air control in a match of Supremacy is often not going to swing the battle dramatically in your favour. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on a hero pickup, be sure to choose someone who will benefit your team most in the current situation, or who you feel most comfortable using. Don't just wander alone looking for kills anywhere either. Remember to use that potency to help push the enemy away from objectives so that your team can take control of them. A hero fighting alongside their troops is much harder to deal with than one swaggering around alone. Similarly, if someone on your team chooses to enter the battle as Princess Leia or Emperor Palpatine, consider spawning in as one of their guards. These special troops are more powerful than your average foot soldier, and comes equipped with a rechargeable smart rocket and homing shot as well, making them potent companions to their legendary bosses. Even a single honor guard or shock trooper can clear out a group of opponents in the hands of a smart player. Hot tip number 5. Keep an eye on the radar, but don't just rely on it. The radar in the top left hand corner is your friend. Be sure to peek at it frequently, as it'll quickly alert you to the direction of nearby enemies. Heroes are marked even more precisely as a dot, making it much simpler to keep track of where they are moving. By using the radar, you are much less likely to get caught out by enemies approaching from unusual directions. It's not a perfect guide, however. Remember that some enemies may be above or below you, and that certain opponents may be using equipment to keep themselves hidden from your radar. The radar should never take priority over what you can actually see on screen, but it is a handy tool. In particular, it can be beneficial on places like the forest moon of Endor, where you might get into small gunfights around a clump of large trees. Tracking your opponent's movement can let you know which way they are attempting to approach from, and how close they are to your current position. This might just be enough to get you the drop on them in a gunfight. Hot tip number 6. Experiment with using multiple hands. The equipment you take into battle can drastically alter the way you approach each encounter. If you load up with a thermal detonator and impact grenade, then you're probably looking to get up close and personal with your foes and dominate short-range gunfights, so bring a gun that excels for that situation. However, if you prefer to fight at a distance, then perhaps you'd find more luck using the pulse cannon or cycler rifle alongside a jump pack to get you to the high ground quickly or escape from a hairy situation. Remember that you can bring two hands with you into a match, so don't just pick the same things on both. It's a good idea to leave yourself options. If you're heading into a match of Walker Assault on the Rebel side, how about one hand with a jetpack, personal shield and impact grenade for capturing the points, and a second hand packed with all manner of iron weaponry to deal maximum damage to the AT-ATs while they are vulnerable. One tip that is easily missable is that you can actually save more than two hands. Using the buttons at the bottom of the loadout screen, you can create and name lots of different hand setups, allowing you to quickly switch to the most optimal two for the upcoming map and mode without missing the early action because you were stuck in the setup screen. Hot tip number 7. Find a trait which best suits your playstyle. Alongside your other star cards, you may pick a trait card. This is equipped separately from your hands, but is equally important to your success. They are expensive to pick up, so take a look at each of them and pick carefully. If you love to spam power-ups, then consider the Bounty Hunter pickup, which has a chance to award a power-up upon each kill. Conversely, if you find yourself dying to grenades and other explosives a lot, perhaps the Bodyguard's trait will serve you well. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Scout's trait, which prevents you from flashing up on the enemy radar when you sprint or fire your weapon. I love to flank my opponents and dash around the environment, popping around a different corner every time to try and catch enemies off guard, so this trait suits me royally. Your trait becomes more powerful as you kill more enemies, but it resets upon death. You will always retain the level 1 benefit, however, so don't become too obsessed by maintaining your level 3 bonus. There's no benefit to being a little bit stronger if you end up hiding in a corner and not engaging enemies or helping your team to secure objectives. Hot tip number 8. Upgrade your favourite equipment. Once you've settled on the equipment that you feel most competent with, consider dropping a cool 7,000 credits to upgrade some of that gear. The enhanced black star cards benefit from reduced cooldown times and sometimes also have longer active durations. Make sure to prioritise the ones that will benefit the most, however. It's a good idea to favour the cards with a longer cooldown, as they'll benefit more from the reduction than those which already have a fairly short downtime. Also bear in mind that upgrading is rather pricey, so consider that you could instead spend the money trying out a few new star cards or weapons first. Only worry about upgrading your kit once you are certain that you have something that you're going to use consistently, or that you have credits burning a hole in your pocket and not much else left to spend them on. Hot tip number 9. Listen in with a headset. It's certainly no secret that DICE has incredible sound design in their games. One of the aspects that Battlefront most excels at is its positional audio. This means that if you have a good headset, you can often hear the footsteps of approaching enemies or pinpoint the exact location of nearby gunfire. With a little practice, audio clues can often give you even more precise information on nearby dangers than even the radar can manage. If you're fortunate enough to have a fancy surround sound setup, you might find that this works well too. However, any stereo headset should still put you in a fantastic position to take oral advantage of the enemy team. Additionally, if you're playing with friends, a headset is highly recommended. Not only can you warn your mates of incoming danger or easily coordinate an assault on the objective, but chatting while you play is simply more fun. Just be sure to throw in some choice quotes from the films alongside your general banter for added effect. Hot tip number 10. Take it slow when flying. If you're playing Fighter Squadron or happen to have the opportunity to hop in a craft on another mode, it is always tempting to charge full speed ahead at all times. However, not only can you maneuver more easily when flying slowly, but your cannons will also deal significantly more damage. Once you're in range and have a lock on your foe, slow down as much as possible and you'll be surprised how quickly your weapons tear through their ship. Also, avoid burning your other cooldowns unless you need to. Don't fire missiles as soon as you can, your blasters will often be plenty to take out an enemy in no time. Instead, save them for when an enemy is particularly evasive or has a shield up to protect them from fire. Similarly, hang on to your evasive maneuvers, boosts or shields to dodge incoming missiles and escape tailing ships. If you're playing Fighter Squadron, remember that AI craft are often much easier to take out than human players, so if you aren't the hottest pilot in the fleet, you can still rack up a high score by taking out the computer. Keep an eye out for the hero ship pickup too, which will afford you a ton of health with which to devastate the opposing squadron. In most of the other modes, air control is less essential, with the lone exception of Walker Assault. The X-Wings and A-Wings can deal substantial damage to an exposed walker, so it's imperative that you gain control of the skies before the attack phase begins. As the rebels, you want a clear bombing run on the AT-ATs. You'll also want to keep any TIE fighters or interceptors away from the weaker airspeeders, so that they can attempt to bring down a walker with their tow cable. Meanwhile, the Imperial fighters should be looking to keep the rebels out of the sky in order to minimize incoming damage. It's even possible to destroy the Y-wing bombers as they approach, if you're particularly quick about it. Just remember to make good use of that bonus damage from moving slowly. That's all for now. Hopefully this has given you a few things to think about and take with you into battle next time. If you have any top tips that weren't covered here, be sure to drop them in the comments below. If this video has been helpful, be sure to bop that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I've been Ken, thanks very much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the next one. May the Force be with you.